Hey, hey, hey. This should be lesson 11, I believe. We are finishing up this chapter 7, I believe. And we are to his section of what he calls a limp and an eye patch. He has these cute names for everything, right? Basically, it is going back over your characters and making sure that there is something very specific about each one of them. Is there something distinct about your characters? So he makes it very simple by, a limp and an eye patch. A character has a limp, a character has an eye patch, He's exaggerating a little bit for comedic effect. But think about it. Is there a particular way that your character speaks? Is there a particular vocabulary of that character? Is there a certain character trait physically that really comes out in the story that you want to emphasize? Because that is going to help the characters pop off the page. Do they wear something that's very them, very distinct from everyone else? Go back and look. Does every character have a limp and an eye patch? This takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. And so this is just giving you a chance to go back and take a look and maybe punch things up a little bit in your script. He also talks about, is it primal? Is the need primal? The more primal the need, the more universal. So there are several things that are universal to the human experience. There are certain things that everyone is afraid of, and you can research that. There is a universal fear. I remember researching this a few years ago of people losing a limb. Great. That's a great thing because you can put that in there. It's primal and it's going to affect people no matter the culture, no matter the race, no matter the location. So he mentions movies like Jaws and Alien, which are monster movies. And we all don't want to get attacked and killed by some monster. And so it works very, very well. And if you look at your movies and the shows that you really like, you'll find that the need deep down, the desire deep down is very primal to being a person, to being a human being, to protect your family, to get revenge, to find your soulmate, to survive, to live. All of these are very, very primal things. So go back and look at your story and your need that your protagonist has. Now, at the end of this, he has a great summary. Every point in his summary to this chapter is great because it's going back to see if there's anything broken in your script. Okay? So I really suggest you go back and look at that. So I'll hit some of them, not all of them. We've talked about some of it, but just to reiterate, because this gives you a chance to go back and do some polishing, as I said, punching things up, either in the dialogue or description or in the action. 1, does your character lead the action? That is so important. Are they reactive or proactive? We want proactive heroes. That's just what we want in our protagonists. 2, and we really hit this in the previous lesson, but I want to hit it again because this is something that a lot of writers early in their work and their career do. You talk the plot. You telegraph too much to your audience, to your reader of the script, who everyone is and everyone's relationship. You telegraph the names, you telegraph their relationship, if they're family or if they're husband and wife. So it makes it very clear to an audience who everybody is. You can't do it. You have to figure out a way of showing it. 3, is the bad guy, or as I said in the earlier lesson, the antagonistic forces, are they dark enough? Are they bad enough? They have to be bad. Really, very often, the success of a story is not always on the shoulders of the protagonist, but often it's on the shoulders of just how bad the antagonist is. Okay? What am I feeling when I read your script? Is it one note? Is it just one note emotionally? This is the fourth thing for you to look at. I mean, there are several, but this is for our purposes in this lecture. Is it just one note? Because really, the best stories are those that take you all over the place and emotionally. Is it all drama? Is it all comedy? Is it all frustration? Is it all vengeance? Is it all violence? I guess pretty dull and pretty boring. But if you mix it up from scene to scene, the audience is engaged. We're wanting to know what's happening next. Is dialogue flat? Is it believable dialogue? Is it flat dialogue? All right. Really go back, read some of those lines out loud. Or better yet, as I said, get some actor friends or some just friends and just have them read it out loud. What stands out and what falls flat on its face as far as your dialogue is concerned? Okay. Do a dialogue test of your work. Okay. Again, do all of your characters stand out from one another? Are they unique? Are they distinct on the page? Now, if this is going to be produced, we often say, well, they can fix all of this when they cast. Yes, that's true. But in the mind of a producer or director who's reading it on the page and they can't make that differentiation, it's going to be more of a struggle for them to say, yeah, let's produce it. Let's greenlight this thing and make it happen. You've got to work to really make them very, very distinct. Okay. And as we've already covered, is it primal? Are the urges really, really primal to what it means to be a human being? Because that will help you. So go back through your script, but also go back through the shows and the movies that you like. And maybe you've got a list in your head. Maybe some of you have written them down. Take a look at them and go back and rewatch some of them. What titles on the list really stand out as being strong with all these things that we're talking about? And are there some that are weak? Because you may go back and discover that there are some that aren't quite as great as you once thought that they were. So maybe they're much better than you thought that they were. Very often I do that. There's a movie that maybe I liked when I was a teenager and it's been several years and I watch it again. And I think, oh man, it just gets better and better with every watching. I think I mentioned in one of the lessons that I rewatched You've Got Mail. And it has been a long, long time since I've seen, maybe 20 years since I've seen You've Got Mail. And computer dated things, because it was released, I think, in 1998. With that aside, because computer technology has upgraded a lot since then, the dialogue was really strong. It was very poppy. It was very punchy. Their interaction was very solid. Every character was really distinct from one another. There's really a lot in there that I absolutely enjoyed again and just thought it was very solid. Take a look at your story, the relationship between your protagonist and the antagonist. Again, the antagonist may be another person. It may be the protagonist. Maybe they're versus themselves. Maybe it's something in nature. Maybe it's technology, whatever it is. Take a look at their relationship. How often do they interact? And what takes place in that interaction? So, an interesting thing that a lot of screenwriters, and really any writer, will say about the protagonist and the antagonist, if the antagonist is another person, is that the protagonist and the antagonist are mirror images of each other. Meaning that their goals are very similar, if not the same. That very often a lot of the ways that they choose to achieve their goals are very similar or the same. But find what is the distinctive difference. So I keep going back to some of these movies over and over again. And the one that immediately comes to mind is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've mentioned that 3 or 4 times now. If you haven't seen it, you do need to see it. It is on the WGA Top 101 Best Screenplays. It's in the Smithsonian. It is considered to be one of the most successful franchises in the history of filmmaking. It is worth watching to study on several levels. But the idea of the protagonist and antagonist being just mirror images of each other is really used to great effect in that movie. So if you don't know, Indiana Jones is a professor of archaeology, and he also goes on digs, and he is trying to find the treasures of the world and put them in museums so they can be enjoyed by all of mankind. And in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he goes up against another archaeologist by the name of Belloc. Belloc is going after the very same objects. He believes they're beautiful. He believes that they have cultural power, but he is either looking at them for power for himself or for political gain or for wealth. And so in many ways, they really are alike, except in the outcome of why they are in pursuit of what they're in pursuit of. All right. There is a scene that Belloc and Indiana Jones have. It's in a bar. And Belloc says, "We're alike. You and I were just alike. We like to go after these things. We absolutely appreciate them more than anybody else." And it's true. I mean, the audience knows it's true that these two characters are really close to being alike, except for the outcome. So Belloc wants to have the power, and he's very arrogant and very prideful. Jones has a little bit more humility and believes that these items, these artifacts, need to be protected. So that's where they're different. So go back and look at your list and take a look at the protagonist and antagonist. How similar are they? Really, the closer they are in similarity, the story works a whole lot better. It really does. It just plays out better because it makes things tighter and just a little bit more believable in your script. Okay? So these are just highlights to go back and review in your script. If you're done or almost done, hopefully you'll have the time to go back and read this, your script, read through it, and see if you can find some of these elements and maybe take the time to do a few changes if you want. The last chapter, chapter 8, really deals with the business. And the business is really, for us at this point, is a separate conversation. We really just want to focus on the writing. We want to write. All right? So, punch the script, polish it, make it snap, make everything just blast off the page in the imagination of the reader. And I really look forward to reading everyone's scripts.